Sport requires effort, sweat and strong will, and Macron knows it. A leading global company with Italian DNA in the production and sale of sportswear, when Macron first entered the sports world in 1971, it was a small yet strong player. Since then, Macron has been growing at a very fast pace, supporting teams, sportsmen and women at all levels, working hard to supply them with the best technical products to help improve their performances. With over 4 million pieces of stock available in our Italian warehouse and an extensive range of on-field, off-field and free-time products, we cater for everyone from amateurs to professional sporting organisations, even referees. Ranked third most prominent football brand by the UEFA, Macron keeps expanding its presence worldwide, including Australia, where we are currently proud partners of Perth Glory, Macarthur FC, Port Adelaide and Parramatta Eels, and more to come. Work hard, play harder, Macron, your next teamwear partner. For more information, visit our website at www.macronvic.com.au or call us on 1800-MACRON. Welcome back to the Football Out West show. Here it is episode 70, and Craig, tonight, well, just as pretty much after we finish our show here, it's time for the big Old Firm derby, Celtic versus Rangers. What a game that's going to be! And obviously now, with Ange Postecoglou doing so well at Celtic Park, a lot of Australians now are really finding this newfound interest in the Scottish League, and mate, it promises to be an awesome game, doesn't it?
It is, Tonch. It's going to be an absolute cracker for a number of reasons. You've got Stevie Gerrard from ex-Liverpool, a superstar in his own right, I suppose. And then you've got the old wily fox in Ange Postecoglou, who's now. I think we'll touch on it with our guest. He's really settled down quickly after what was a torrid first week, I suppose. The knives were out very, very quickly, as our guest will know. It's a very difficult place to go, very difficult place to play, very partisan crowd. But look, I have to say he's put his Ange stamp on Celtic very, very soon, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he goes tonight.
Should be a great one.
Should be cracker, mate. 9 o'clock on beIN Sport, so it should be a fantastic game of football.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of our guest, a man who knows all too well the toughness, the rigours, the action-packed drama of the Scottish Premier League is a man who's also played for Celtic. He's also played for Partick Thistle. He had 2 stints with Motherwell, and also for some of my friends who are Dundee United fans, this man also donned a Dundee United shirt. It's an absolute pleasure to introduce the newly appointed coach, mind you, for season 2022 of the Gold Coast Knights, Scott McDONALD. Scott, thank you for joining us here on the Football Out West show.
Thanks for having me, lads. Pleasure to be here.
Now, first of all, mate, before we go onto the Old Firm and the Scottish League, let's talk about your new appointment, because that is going to be, is it not your first managerial gig, and it officially starts as of next season in the Queensland NPL?
Yeah, absolutely does. So it means that I am actually officially retired, which I've not really announced. It's not been. I'm not one of these guys to announce these big things. It's just, let's move on to the next thing. I've always been like that throughout my career, and I think that's probably why I played as long as I did. I'm not too worried about what's gone on in the past, and I'm really looking forward to this challenge ahead and the future ahead. And look, I'm on my UEFA Pro license with the Scottish FA right now, so it was always something I was wanting to do. I'm very passionate about the coaching side of the game, and looking to progress. And this opportunity was too great to turn down after talking to the owner, Adrian, and obviously Adam Porridge as well, who was obviously previous head coach at the club, who's CEO as well. Just getting too much of a role to continue on. And once we sat down and we talked, there was no two ways about it for me. This was a great challenge for me, and something that probably you wouldn't get if you weren't a head coach, within an A-League sort of setup. You're now looking at it from a perspective of, dealing with owners, recruitment, as well as the tactical side and the leadership side that you have to show as a manager as well at first team level. So for me, it's a great opportunity, first up, and really looking forward to it.
It's a fantastic learning curve, I think. First and foremost, Scotty, doing your pro, your A license, A license or pro.
Yeah, I'm on my pro at the minute.
You always get a lot of coaches who jump in head first to big jobs, and sometimes that's the undoing of a lot of people. But having a role and I can't say that Gold Coast Knights are a small club, because they're one of the biggest non-A League clubs in the country. And obviously, myself and Tonch, with a link to a Geelong, a Croatian club ourselves, we know how big that is. It's just unfortunate. I think I said to you on the phone yesterday that it's a shame that Crow Cup can't take place, because I've not been to one, you've not been to one, and they're supposed to be fantastic. But hopefully 2023 we can get that up and running again. But congratulations on that.
Jokingly, obviously, yesterday I said hopefully we'll both still be in jobs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're looking at that.
These clubs, but look, I think you just touched on it there. Gold Coast Knights is one of the biggest clubs, out with the A-League in terms of their expectations and the resources that it does have, and what Adrian has put into this football club. Very passionate about it. And look, there's expectations with it, but there was always that for me as a player. So for me, I love the pressures of that. That's no problem, because, I'll be putting those pressures on myself, and hopefully, the players, the demands of that, when we get started anyhow. So you play to win, as we all do. So, that just comes with the territory, I believe.
Absolutely, mate. We're going to talk a little bit about your new role, which officially starts as of next year, but unofficially actually starts as of tonight. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing this as a pre-record. But let's move over to the to the Scottish Premier League, which has really now become very, very interesting to a lot of Australian football fans. Obviously, because of we've got players like Tom Rogic at the moment over there as well. But obviously, Ange Postecoglou, the manager, he's doing so well at one of your former clubs, Glasgow Celtic. Tell us about the Old Firm derbies. I mean, you played at Celtic for 3-4 seasons, as well as other clubs. What's it like, a Celtic Rangers derby?
Look, the build-up to these are always phenomenal. The whole week, I think both clubs probably be thankful in a sense that they've had Europa League games to contest with this week, because it's sort of had the mindset elsewhere, and a lot less time for the players to focus on that and focus on other thoughts. Thankfully, I think it's great for Scottish football. Both clubs actually made it through to the Europa League stages, which is fantastic, after both having shaky starts through their Champions League qualifications. So that's been a real positive. But yeah, look, going back to my experiences in terms of, leading in, you always were strict on your routine that week. You would go to training and you would go straight home. And even then, if you stopped at the wrong red light, you could be in a world of bother, because there was always someone that could notice you. Even if your windows were that dark, there's always someone willing to, wind the window down and give you dog's abuse, from the other half of Glasgow. So it's very, very serious. Look, it's religious over there, without question. And this adds extra spice now that the fans are back. The first Old Firm game back, in almost 18 months to 2 years. So they'll be churning at the bit. No Celtic fans are allowed in the stadium. Right. Yeah, there's been politics played, amongst the two football clubs. Rangers had asked for guarantees of, Celtic actually giving them away tickets for the return game at Christmas time. They couldn't give them to them. So for that reason, Rangers have now said, right, well, we're just going to give all the remaining seats to our season ticket holders, and it will just be full of Rangers fans for the whole of it. There has been that going on for a little while, and it's such a disappointment and a shame. There's been a lot of pundits, back home saying a lot about it, and it just doesn't. It sort of disappoints for the spectacle itself, because it's always great to see those away fans, particularly at Rangers at the Copeland end with all those Celtic fans. I was lucky enough to score a winner, with those fans in the background. It was phenomenal. But as it is, it's going to be a cauldron for Celtic to go in. And albeit Celtic have been playing the better football in recent weeks, Rangers have been quite sticky. But you just feel, obviously, with the Ibrox crowd behind them, they're going to be more than up for this one, and it's going to be tough for Celtic.
Yeah, well, just show a video. You just touched on your goal there, 2009, I think it was. Your goal against Celtic there, and just play a little bit of a video and a clip, and fantastic turn and a volley into the top corner. Sent the the Celtic fan wall, but not so much looking at the crowd in the background, the abuse you were getting, mate. There was not a lot of love from the Rangers fans on that day. But you said it was
absolutely fantastic last week. But just look at this for a finish. He's online, nice little flick there from Sanders. He's got so much work to do though, but he just turns to his left and the ball sits up nicely. Godfrey doesn't get close enough. He gets wrong side as well, but there's no doubt about that finish. McGregor, absolutely no chance. It was always going in.
Look at the passion. Look at that.
On the Celtic bench. Neil Lennon would join in the celebration if it could. Scott McDONALD, who scored twice against Rangers at Celtic Park in April, missed a penalty against them the same month, has banged in a beauty.
There you go. That must bring back some very, very good memories. Hey,
absolutely. It still sends the shivers down the spine. I don't think I'll hit a better one in a game like that. It was one of my best goals. And
mate, can I also say, when was that? 12 years ago, 13 years ago? You still haven't changed. You haven't aged at all. Maybe a few little grays there, and that's about it. Like a good wine. Scott. Now you've also played not just at Celtic, but and you played 88 games at Celtic, but you've also played over 300 games in the Scottish League in total. So, as we mentioned at the top of the interview, you played with Motherwell on 2 different occasions, Dundee United and Partick Thistle as well. Obviously, all the attention is on those 2 clubs, but I mean, if we look at the ladder at the moment, Hibs are on top. Heart of Midlothian, Aberdeen, and then your old club, Motherwell. So Celtic and Rangers, even though there's a game in hand, occupy 5th and 6th spot at the moment. There's a stereotype of the Scottish League is that it is a 2-team competition, 2-team league. But in reality, there are a lot of other clubs that maybe don't get the fanfare that have got some very quality players.
Yeah, they do. I mean, particularly now, with Hearts coming back up from the Championship this year, this is probably the strongest Premier League there has been in many a year in terms of the big teams are in the league. All 12 teams are big teams. Probably, no disrespect, out with Livingston. They're probably one of the smaller ones, but your top 6 teams are there. So it's very hard to break through them. You've got your Hearts, your Hibs, your Aberdeens. Dundee United have come back into as well. And then you got Celtic and Rangers. So I mean, obviously, they do put it as a 2-team league because of the disparity in terms of wages that Celtic and Rangers can afford to pay players and the quality of players that they can bring in, which is more than fair enough. But it's up to the other caliber of teams to go and be consistent out with those 2 and really put pressure. And I think probably Hibs will do that certainly this year. There's a lot of promise with Aberdeen, and I think Hearts will be a particular surprise package this year, albeit even though they came up from the Championship, they're always a strong side, and they've always got one of the biggest passionate supports around as well. So there'll always be tricky games for Celtic and Rangers, and I fully expect this year for it to be topsy-turvy, very much a roller coaster for both Old Firm teams, particularly when they go away. Now that we've got fans in, as we've seen already, Celtic and Rangers have dropped points away from home, and I think there'll be plenty more to come.
Yeah. Now, what people, for our listeners, you actually, back in 2007, I think Motherwell turned down a bid from Rangers. So, ironically, you could have been playing for the other side of Glasgow had the bid from Motherwell been accepted from Rangers. I think a bid of £400,000, which is about $700,000.
Yeah,
back in 2007. How did? Yeah.
Well, look, it's pretty crazy how things work out. At that point, I think historically, I didn't really think that Celtic were going to come forth and put a bid in for me. There's a bit of back history to that. Obviously, with my time at Motherwell playing against Celtic, I don't really want to go into that too deep. But that probably, in my mind, was sort of like, well, there's only going to be one half of probably the Old Firm are going to come, and a chance to play, and win trophies, play at European, level as well. It was going to send you to the next level. So for me, I was dead set and wanting to, go to Rangers when that bid was obviously put in. But as it was, Motherwell, denied it. And I had to stay till the end of the season with Motherwell. And then within, 2 months' time, Celtic came calling. And when I had the choice between the two, there was only one choice, because I grew up a Celtic fan. I just didn't believe at that point that was ever going to be the case, that would come up for me at that time. But thankfully, all good things come to those who wait, and thankfully it was my opportunity, and I lived the dream, guys. Pretty much from a young kid, coming from Melbourne with Scottish parents and supporting Glasgow Celtic from a very young age, watching them on the telly, listen to the tannoy, because we couldn't get vision of the games then so long. That I am pretty old now. And then going back as a young kid as well, at 10, 11-year-old, seeing all your superstars that you actually now, I'm friends with some of them. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
You got all these pictures when you're 10-year-old with these guys, but you can sit there and have a beer with them now. It's kind of crazy. But it's just been surreal. And I suppose I've not really had a chance to sort of think about it too much or enjoy it or think, wow, it's been some ride. I think one day I will. But like I said, off air, I think it was, before we got on, it's all about the next thing for me. And I'm still always in that motion rather than thinking about behind. But it's been a great experience.
Now, you mentioned a kid from Melbourne going to Scotland and living his dreams. I guess we've got another kid from Melbourne, and he's a little bit older than probably all of us. Ange Postecoglou, he's over there now, head coach of Glasgow Celtic. He's doing incredibly well. They absolutely love him. But the scrutiny that he must be under, the pressure he must be under, because Glasgow, obviously, from what I gather, and I've been to Glasgow once, beautiful town, people are fantastic when the Scots are playing. I can imagine when it's like the Old Firm, what it would be like then. Good Lord. What's the pressure like? What's the kind of public attention that he'd be under as coach of Celtic?
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It doesn't stop. You're always judged, even when you're sleeping. When you walk out from the training ground, it doesn't matter where you are. There will be all eyes on Ange Postecoglou, from all the Celtic fans and faithful, and the job that he's doing. He just won't get a minute's peace. I think it would be a pleasant, not a pleasant surprise, but a huge surprise to him. He probably knew what he was getting into, but no one really, really knows until you actually, get that door and experience it, full on. And I bet, now he really understands it. What I will say is, though, from the calamitous that he arrived in, to turn it around in such a short space of time that he has done has been truly spectacular and shows the quality of manager and leader that he is. Because those first couple of weeks, there was hardly enough bodies in the building to, sort of put a first 11 out for a pre-season friendly. He had to go into sort of the youth ranks to sort of fill gaps till such a time that obviously he got some of his internationals back. Still then, he didn't have enough players. There's been players disenchanted from the year before as well. They've won 9 in a row, a lot of these players. How does he motivate them? How does he get them to stay on board? And for him to do that and obviously still as well, put his own stamp on it and his own philosophy, we've really seen that come through, guys. Particularly, they lose the first game of the season. They go out of the Champions League. Everyone's going, this guy's not going to last till Christmas. But bang, he just clicked and just something clicked. A few more bodies through the door. And all of a sudden, you see the quality go up. And Kyogo Furuhashi particularly has been most prominent, for Celtic success. And it's been a great sign from Ange because he gives them everything in terms of his goals, his quality off the ball, his movement. But even just his, the way he goes and presses, it really sets a precedent for the whole team to go and attack teams. And I'm really looking forward to seeing them do that against Rangers at Ibrox tonight. And see how they come up and see what Rangers have got, to answer that.
Yeah, and look, one thing as we all know of being coaching is you're scrutinised by the way you play sometimes, and coaches go away from that and think, well, I've got to appease the fans. I'm going to play in a different style because of we see Mikel Arteta at the moment, and it's not about Arsenal, but I was just gobsmacked with the style of football they play. I have no idea. I know they have no identity.
No.
Ange Postecoglou is a true identity. You know what you're going to get out of Ange, whether you're in the third division of the Scottish football or whether you're in Australia or Japan. You're going to play a specific style of football, and he stuck to his guns very, very early. Now, for a lot of coaches that takes years, and you're going to find out very similar, over the next part of your journey. It takes a long time sometimes to get that, but he really has, over the space of 6 weeks, transformed that football team into a superb footballing unit now. With Tommy Rock, with the additions of the keeper coming in and a couple of signings, that's a massive lift of a football club. And then you've got Ange and his passion and the way that he talks to the press. That's something that Scottish media will not be prepared for.
No,
He talks to the media. He is unbelievable. But he's doing a fantastic job. Just going on to tonight's game, Scott. It's going to be a fiery encounter. They always are. Rangers do have a couple of hotheads in the team. I'm going to ask it. It's been on my list. And should I or shouldn't I? Will Moreno stay on the pitch?
Oh, you know what? I think he will. I think he will because his nemesis won't be playing tonight. Obviously, he's in a red shirt now in Scott Brown. So, in terms of people to get under his skin, I'm not so sure Celtic have that in abundance now, particularly in the back line. It'll be Starfelt's first occasion playing in an old firm. Welsh is very, very young also. Tony Ralston, again, is very inexperienced in terms of these old firm games as well. And then you've got Greg Taylor as the left back again, who's not played too many. So if you're looking at any weakness probably within the Celtic side, it is that back four. And that's where we'll be looking to target. There's no question, and try and get at them early as possible, because if you go sort of middle to front for Celtic, you'd have to say, on performances at the moment, they are far superior to what Rangers have been performing at the moment. But these games just throw up, curveballs, and you can never sort of judge before these games realistically who's going to be the better side, because it just all depends. It's a cup final game, really is, always is. What I will say is, obviously, being at Ibrox and having a full capacity crowd of Rangers fans in it, Celtic are going to be up against it. They're going to have a really good start, try and quieten those Rangers supporters and really get them frustrated like they have been already this year. And that's something that the big question mark on the Rangers players at the moment, particularly because obviously last season there wasn't any fans. They played so well, performed excellent. And then since the fans have been back and there has been certain moments within games of frustration and the fans have got on top of them, that they haven't been able to bounce back from that and show a bit of character. So I think that will be one of the the things that Celtic are looking at and trying to quieten them very quickly and frustrate them. And I think they've got the capacity to do that. But again, if it will all come down to that midfield battle, guys. It always does. Yeah. Who's going to dominate in that midfield three of both sides? And if Rangers particularly, I'm interested to see, because what Ange has done really, really well this year is with his inverted fullbacks, which is probably particularly it really is. He learned and mastered that a lot more when he's been in Japan. But the timings of what the fullbacks, how they invert as well, just no one's had an answer for it, guys, in the Scottish Premier League thus far. I mean,
nobody's done it, Scotty. Nobody's played that system before. So all of a sudden you've got a system where are the runners? Where's the movement going? How is that right back coming in as a six? Where's the six? And it's very hard if you haven't come across that style of football before.
Correct. And what's happening is he's leaving his wingers. I know we're getting very tactical, so I don't know if people like analytical talk, but the wingers
love it.
Stay wide and really have 1v1 situations against. And you'd have to say probably Tavernier as well. If he gets in 1v1 situations, that's probably what I'd be looking at getting. He's very good at getting forward, but if they can get at him in 1v1 situations with those inverted fullbacks and overload those midfield areas. But, Michael Beale and Steven Gerrard, particularly Michael Beale, is a very, very clever coach as well. So that's why I'm so intrigued and looking forward to this encounter, guys, because how Rangers sort of try and, come up with ideas and ways to, stop Celtic, with that overload in the middle of the pitch.
Excellent. Well, Scott, we would love to have chatted a little bit more about your own managerial direction, I suppose, and I'm sure there'll be opportunities for that. We look forward to having you on the show again. But we're going to wind it up very, very quickly here, knowing you're a very busy man. Quickly, just your prediction for tonight's game.
Well, I did say 1-1 in my prediction, but obviously the game's getting closer. I'm a Celtic man, and I'm going to say 2-1 Celtic. Come on, boys.
Excellent. So it's on BEN Sports tonight. And for those of you like Maxi Santic, if you got the Croatian television IPTV channels and all that, that'll be on there as well.
It's on KO, Tunch. If you got KO, it'll be on KO.
KO as well. There you go. So there's a million ways that you can watch the game tonight. Should be an absolute fantastic one. And Scott, as for you, we wish you all the very best. You've got some months ahead of you to be able to plan and do all the back end, scouting, if you like, and all that before you become officially the head coach as of next season of the Gold Coast Knights. Wishing you all the very best, mate.
Thanks very much, guys. Pleasure to talk to you. Hopefully, chat.
Thanks, mate.
Good on you. And that was Scott McDONALD. Interesting chatting to him. Always is interesting chatting. The tactical side of things, I found that very, very fascinating, Craig. But it's all happening at 9 o'clock tonight. Should be an absolute perler of a game.
Perfect. It'll be a cracker. It's one to watch for sure.
There you go. Don't go away, folks. When we come back, we've got another special guest, this time all the way from Moscow in Russia to look at the Serie A competition.